Alright guys, so we have had the new Nintendo 3DS for the last week or so. So I've had a little bit of time to play with it and to hopefully answer some of your questions which you guys have asked on Facebook and through various other methods. We'll cover off the basics first. So the big things that you know about it already is the fact that it has a C-stick, which is located there. I'll play with that bad boy there. For those who are wondering, yes, it is basically, it feels a lot like an old IBM, I don't know, what do we call them, nipples, I guess? Like the little blue thing that used to be in the middle of the keypad that you would move the mouse around with. Feels a lot like one of them, perhaps not quite as tactile, but for things like Smash Brothers, where like you can do C-stick smashing and stuff like that, it seems pretty legit. However, the big game that's going to use that is going to be Monster Hunter 4G. So that, I believe that that's going to eventually have a patch that will allow you to use it basically natively. One hopes as well that it'll include the previous titles that used the C-stick, stuff like Metal Gear Solid and the original Monster Hunter as well. The other thing is it is a tiny bit, it's hard to say this, but this is actually, the new one is actually a little bit bigger in the sense of its actual width and height, but it's a little bit thinner. So while they're very similar sized, they feel, as far as the actual, how far apart you hold your hands and stuff, very similar. However, this is better weighted and the hinge is much better quality. Like there's no flex in that you have to worry about. You can, you're pretty safe to do it. Whereas, as we all know, with the old-fashioned ones, there's a lot more kind of give in those with the weak hinges, which is not ideal. So at the moment, I have them both set up. They're on their highest brightness. It's going to be hard to see through the cameras, but you can always try. The new 3DS is definitely brighter. There's a little bit more like definition to the screen. However, the big thing with it is the use of the 3D. The second it detects your head, and maybe even one of the guys can move their head behind the camera, it should eventually pick up your face and track it. So it will actually, whereas with the 3DS here, you have to hold it at that same angle. You have to hold it there and the 3D will work. With this one, it will actually track. So if I put on 3D and I'm looking that way and I'm looking up or I'm looking down, it will actually track where my head is. There's a second camera there which helps it like work out where your head is. And if you like the 3D of the 3DS, it's great. It works really, really well. It tracks your head. It's wonderful fun. But if that was never a selling point for you, then it's not going to be a selling point now because it's still the same 3D. It hurts my eyes. I'm going to be honest. I can't handle the 3D on a 3DS. It hurts my eyes. But I can't handle the 3D in a 3D movie. So I'm not a very good example. But if that's a big selling point for you, great. As far as the buttons and stuff go, this one actually feels, the new 3DS actually feels really nice in your hands. It has better weighting, the buttons feel nicer. It's also been some real changes to the structure. So the other big addition is the two buttons on the back. We have the L and R buttons. We also have the ZL and ZR buttons. So they're extra ones. The only problem is the positioning. Like if you're pushing that, you have to like arc your fingers around the L and R buttons, which seems kind of counterintuitive. Like there's your L and R, and there's your other ones. It just, it just feels a little bit off. That said, it does sit in your hands nice, and you'll notice as well, there's no port for your video games. There's your charger port, so it's the same charger that you use for the original 3DS, but it doesn't come with one, and I'm going to go into why later, but it doesn't actually come with a charger at all. The game slot itself is in the front, so there's your game slot right there. Makes you less likely to accidentally eject things, which, believe it or not, happens and is definitely a thing. There's your port for your headphones. There's your port for the stylus and your power button and your Wi-Fi button, stuff like that. So they've definitely changed it. The volume as well. The volume's been shifted up to here across from the 3D switch, whereas on the old system it was, of course, down near the C-stick, the thumbstick. So that's the basics covered. On that alone, is it worth updating? Well, I guess it comes down to whether you need a new 3DS or not. It does run games faster, and I think that's probably one of the big questions that I got asked a lot. Is there a noticeable difference in the startup of games? Now, it's going to be difficult for me to show you the different startup times with the games now, simply because I'd have to put it back in, put it back out. However, using the cartridge version of Smash Brothers on the 3DS, it took 31 seconds from the second the Nintendo 3DS splash appears on screen to the game starting, to like the actual menu music starting up and it coming up. It took 16 seconds on the new 3DS. So it literally halved the loading time on the 3DS. So DS games, for my money, don't look that great on the new 3DS because the screen is better. So there's no real difference in the loading times because the 3DS never really had any problems running the DS in the first place. That's the end of that one. So let's go to the questions themselves. No AC adapter. Now, to explain why they haven't packed an AC adapter in, I have to explain the idea of a mature market. Now, if you don't know what a mature market is basically when you've sold enough of a product that you don't believe you are going to sell enough of that product anymore. The gains on that product are going to start going down. So you introduce the new model to hopefully increase those sales, and that is basically what this does. So Australia is considered a mature market. So that's the reason it doesn't come with an AC adapter, because they're going to assume you're upgrading, not buying new. There you go. There's your boring marketing speak done for today. Number 2, the 3DS and the 3DS XL, do they have amiibo functionality? Yes, they both do. It's both just located on the side. You put them down, they work. That's something that's in the booklet. I couldn't tell you for 100% sure if it works on 3DS because we don't have one, but in the booklet it specifically states it. Next question is the list of countries when you start the machine up. So when you start the machine up, you obviously have to set up your region and that kind of stuff. It is recommended that you set up the basic profile, you get it to the main screen, and then you transfer your memory cards. However, you can start up, you've got Australia, and all the PAL regions are available from the screen. So yes, if you set your account to UK, even though we're not supposed to, you should be able to get away with it. The next question was, can I have it? The answer is no, you can't. You can't have it. The next question after that, of course, because this is the internet, was can I lick it? No, you can't do that either. However, the one thing that is a bit noticeable about it is, the 3DS has a nice kind of simple feel to it. It just feels like plastic. The new 3DS has a real glossy sheen, and as you can see, we've definitely got stuck into it with our thumbs there. But it's like a glossed finish. Now, I don't know how, a metallic, I guess. Well, I guess it's called metallic black. But I don't know how to feel about it. I'm not a big fan of gloss finishes because I'm a greasy dude. I don't know how to sum that up. But I'm not a big fan of it. However, you can, of course, buy the shells that will change. I don't know if they've got the 3DS XL ones. I know they've got the ones for the 3DS, or is it vice versa? However, you can buy cases for it and change it over. The big thing that seems to be annoying people with it is it doesn't have a slot for your micro SD card, or your micro SD card in this case, or your SD card. So in the old system, you flick that open, pull that out, bang, there's your SD card. Straight down the guts, easy to just pop it out, done. Close that up, easy. With the new 3DS, there is no SD/micro SD port. What you actually have to do, and here comes a little bit of fun, you can watch me do a tech demonstration, quote unquote. You have to actually screw the back off. So wait till they click. Come on, don't be that guy. There we go. Done. And then use your stylus to pop the sides out. Like, I can't believe this is a thing that they're expecting people with young children to do. I like the system generally, but this seems very prone to somebody either losing an eye or breaking a fingernail or something like that and then suing Nintendo. But there we go. But it also means you've got access to your battery. So you can, I don't know if it was ever illegal in the other one to change your battery because no user serviceable parts, blah blah blah. But to get to your SD card, which is there, and we'll slot that one back in, you can change your battery as well. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem for them later on with like the PSP, where the way they managed to hack it was by using a special kind of battery. I don't know, but if your battery does die, you can get a replacement battery. So I think I always prefer my electronics to have the ability to put a new battery in, simply because you don't want to have to pay like the Apple tax to get them to do it for you, which is always an inconvenience. So we can screw it back on pretty easy. They're a bit like flimsy, but it's also the rattle of the screws is not helping on that one. So we will clip that back on, hopefully not break it, no promises. Put that down. Put that down. Yep, that's all clipped back on. So it does sit pretty snugly. It can also be a good thing and a bad thing because of that. And then we just screw that back together. And that one back on there. Done. Magic. Fixed. So there's your 3DS back in working order. You can play your games, do whatever the hell you want on it. Is it worth an upgrade? Well, like we discussed before, if you're if you've already got a 3DS and you're a big 3DS player, there's a lot to like about the new system. It's going to come down to basically whether you find it worth it when you know that in 6 months' time, a year's time, there's going to be basically bundles. They're going to come with games. It's going to be able to purchase alongside a title that you're after or a specific launch or whatever the case may be. So it is really going to come down to how much you play 3DS already. If you're willing to upgrade, because you can't backgrade. Once you transfer your data from this to this, you can't go from this to this. So just keep that in mind as well. But is it worth an upgrade? It's going to come down to your own personal circumstances, like it always does. It does feel very nice, even if it is a little bit slippery. But if you have any more questions, or you have any feedback, feel free to put something down in the comments, send us something on Facebook, subscribe if you like, and hopefully we can get some more of these early first looks at new hardware. And don't forget to go to newgameplus.tv.